Amen. number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
That's right.
All right.
Are we on?
Let's see. I'm
Let's
on.
see.
Are you on?
Am I on? All right. Yes, now we are on.
We are on.
Wow. Woo. You know, you're really exploding that stereotype that Unitarian Universalists are God's frozen people, Adam.
Oh, yes, you are.
Ooh, the Spirit is moving right here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's try it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's right.
Hey! Ra-ta-ta! Good morning, children.
I'm Abhi Janamanchi. My pronouns are he and him.
I'm Reverend Abhi Ali. I'm Abhi. Okay. I'm Reverend. I'm trying so much to be like
the
you.
naming ceremony is next week, Reverend Ali.
No. I'll keep my name this time. I'm Reverend Ali K.C. Bell. My pronouns are he, they, and Ali. I'm going to be a Janamanchi soon, I guess, if I keep it up.
We already claimed one.
I know, you have Everett already. It's getting bad here, man.
That's right. Welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church on this beautiful, beautiful day. It is good to be here.
It is.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your beliefs, gender identity, documentation status, and disability, and wherever you are joining us from, in person or at home, you are welcome to bring your whole glorious, imperfect selves here.
Yes. And if you are joining us for the first time today, please raise your hand if you are in person.
All right.
Or add your name in the chat and welcome. You are invited to complete the newcomer form that will be linked in the chat and join my colleague, this one, Reverend Abhi, after service right here in the sanctuary to chat about Unitarian Universalism in Cedar Lane.
Yes, please feel free to come up and we'll just huddle over here and chat about different things. And let's give our guests a warm Cedar Lane welcome.
Woo.
Thank you for taking the time and taking a risk to join us for worship today. And if you've been attending for a while and are interested in joining our religious community, please talk to this one, Reverend Ali, after the service.
Yes, I'll be happy to talk to you. Our pastoral visitors are an extension of the ministry team. And Joanne Jersey is our pastoral visitor today. Joanne is right over here. She's available to support you in person. And we have a few announcements. A celebration of life service for Elsie Derlin will be held today at 2 p.m. in the sanctuary, and for Catherine Schuler tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the chapel.
All are welcome to attend. And I hope you will join our social justice coordinator, Andrew Batcher, after our service in the library to learn more about the Teaching Truth campaign, which was launched by our Potomac Partnership sibling congregation, UU Fairfax, in response to some of the anti-critical race theory and transphobic politics in Virginia. So Andrew will be present to share more information and also learn more about what's happening right here in Maryland.
Yes, our partners at Interfaith Power and Light and AIM are inviting us to speak out for an all-electric building code in Montgomery County, a bill for our county council will vote on later this month. So stop by their table after service to take a picture with signs to say that you want to take a stake for climate and our neighbors' health, and that basically that Montgomery County's, all the new buildings should be wired up and ready to go.
Wired up?
And ready to go.
All right.
That's right.
In late September, our Progress Pride flag was stolen and the flagpole was damaged. We reported the theft and the act of vandalism, and undeterred by this, our facilities technician Rufo Nasol actually built a new frame, a more secure frame, we thought, and we installed a new Pride Progress flag. And last week, the pole was cut through and the replacement flag was taken again. So we have filed another report and have also reached out to our neighbors to request them to be vigilant and see if it happens again or if they see anything. And so
we will hold a flag rededication ceremony after Sunday morning service on November 20th to dedicate our new Progress Pride flag. At the Sunday service, we will also hold a naming ceremony for all trans and non-binary people who would like to participate. Please let me know by Friday, November 17th, by calling or emailing abel@cedarlane.org.
These acts of vandalism are not going to deter us. In fact, they are spurring us to actually keep doing this again and again and again.
We shall not be moved.
Indeed. And friends, we hope you will join area faith communities for an interreligious transgender day of remembrance service next Sunday, November 20th at 7 p.m. at Bethesda UCC Church. Ezra Town, who is one of our worship associates, and David Underwood, who is a Cedar Lane friend, and Reverend Ali are helping plan this service and also will be participating in this service. It will be good to come together in remembrance and gratitude. And we have a guest this morning.
We do have a guest. I am sure that you've noticed that we have a brilliant colleague with us today, the Reverend Dr. Sofia Betancourt, and she serves as a resident scholar and special advisor on Justice and Equity at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Her academic work focuses on environmental ethics of liberation in a womanist and Latina feminist frame. She served for 5 years on the core faculty of Starr King School for the Ministry, 4 years as the Director of Racial and Ethnic Concerns of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and briefly as its interim co-president. Betancourt's ministry centers on work that is empowering and counter-oppressive, and we are so delighted to have you with us today.
Welcome. Thank you. As we enter this time of centering and celebration, connection, and community, we acknowledge that we gather as Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank people, part of the Piscataway group of tribes, and on the land on which enslaved African people and their descendants labored and lived without choice or reward. We honor with gratitude the land and the people who have protected it for generations.
We gather in gratitude for all who have gone before, whose love and labor created and sustained the mission and ministry of this religious community. In this spirit we gather, in this spirit we begin. Let us greet and welcome each other.
Beautiful, thank you. Our invocation this morning comes from the poet Naomi Shihab Nye. This poem is called The Garden of Abu Mahmoud. He had also lived in Spain, so we stood under a glossy loquat tree, telling of madres y milagros with clumsy tongues. It seemed strange in the mouth of this Arab, but no more so than everything. Across his valley, the military settlement gleamed white. He said, "That is where the guns live," as simply as saying, "It needs sun. A plant needs sun." And he stooped to unsheathe an eggplant from its nest of leaves, purple, shining globe, and pressed it on me. I said, no, I don't want to take things before they are ripe, but it was started already. Handfuls of marble-sized peaches, hard green mishmish, and delicate lilt of beans. Each pocket swelled as he breathed mint leaves, bit the jagged edge. He said every morning found him here before the water boiled on the flame. He came out to the garden, dug his hands into the earth, saying, "I know you." And earth crumbled rich layers, and this result of their knowing, a hillside in which no inch went unsung. His enormous onions held light, and the trees so weighted with fruits, he tied the branches up, and he called it querido, corazón, all the words of any language connecting to the deep place of darkness and seed. He called it ya habibi in Arabic, my darling tomato, and it called him governor, king, and some days he wore no shoes. West Bank.
As Peter Fenn kindles the chalice this morning, a symbol of our shared faith and gathered community, a symbol of freedom and sacrifice invoked and practiced by the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to share the chalice lighting words, and invite those who are joining us from home to share in the chat where you are lighting your chalice from. Let us speak the words together. Out of the flames we rise to kindle the chalice of our shared faith and common humanity. Out of the flames of fear we rise with courage of our deepest convictions for justice, equity, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to witness to our faith with hope to heal our broken and beautiful world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that deepens our shared humanity. Thank you. Please be seated.
This morning I get to tell you a story from one of my friends and one of our Unitarian Universalist leaders, Joshua Searle White. The story is called The Storyteller by the Sea. So once there was a storyteller, and she was known all around the world for her stories. But not a lot of people had met her because she lived on an island far away. But they knew her by her stories. Stories that sometimes were so exciting, so dangerous that your heart would race and your palms would sweat, and you needed to know how the story would end. Sometimes her stories were so inspiring that they sent people on soul journeys to dedicate their lives to helping others. One time, the storyteller fell asleep in the middle of a story. Can you imagine if I fell asleep right now? She fell asleep in the middle of her story, and it was so good that the community waited 8 hours until she woke up again to find out how the story ended. Another time, her story was so funny, they had to bring oxygen to help people breathe because they were laughing so hard. Stories that made you fall in love, stories that stopped wars, stories that inspired great art, all told by a woman sitting on a palm frond, that's a big leaf, by the sea. Now, one day her admirers decided they had to meet the storyteller who spoke of human lives and living and changed people forever. And so they came from all around the world, and they crossed the Pacific Ocean, and they came to her island. And they went down to the beach where she was known to tell stories in the evenings, and they sat on some palm fronds, conveniently there waiting for them, and they waited. And when the sun set over the water, here came the storyteller, and she wasn't alone. She had a friend with her who was carrying a platter of delicious fruit. And she sat down on her own palm frond and looked at the travelers. And the travelers looked at her, and she opened her mouth, and everyone leaned in, excited. And she took a piece of pineapple and ate it thoughtfully. Finally, a traveler said, "Great storyteller, we have come from far and wide. We love your stories, and we just want to hear them in person. Won't you tell us a story?" And she whispered to her friend, and the friend said, "Our storyteller knows a lot of stories. Where would you like her to begin?" And one traveler said, I know, tell that story about the baby alligators in the swamp in Florida, but some college kids came on spring break and put them in their backpacks and took them home. And they put the alligators in an aquarium, but they escaped, and it was Minnesota, and it was cold. And so the alligators looked for the warmest place they could find, and that was the college president's hot tub. And so one evening, the college president was also cold, and she climbed in the hot tub, and she found baby alligators. She ran screaming into the road, even though it was cold. She woke up the whole neighborhood, and then she felt bad, so she put them in the college swimming pool, but she forgot that there was swim practice the next day, and then the traveler just fell over laughing, and they couldn't even finish the story. The storyteller was laughing. She remembered that story. She opened her mouth to tell it. But then someone else said, no, tell us the story about the girl in Argentina who wanted to be a pilot. And she was so excited about flying that she built her own airplane as a high school project, and she flew it far across the mountains, but there was a storm, and she crashed, and she had to make her whole way back across the mountains. And even though it was hard, she was proud that she achieved her dreams. That story changed my life. I changed my job to do something I loved more in the world. Everybody started remembering stories that had changed them, telling them all at once. Can you imagine the sound in here if we were all telling the stories that made us who we are? Soon the storyteller held up her hands for quiet. And she was about to speak when one traveler said, no, wait, please tell that story. The one where we can never look at our enemies the same way again. And someone said, that's the story about the colony on Mars. Someone else said, no, that's the story of being trapped in a mine underground. No, said another, it's the story of kangaroos in Australia. No, said that traveler, it's the story of two friends. Remember, two friends, they grew up together. They played in the woods all the time. They would pretend to be wolves and run around and chase things. Sometimes they would swim in the river and pretend they were otters. That story of them growing up and growing apart. But the friends got involved in politics, and it ended up that they were the heads of two rival groups. And the groups disagreed a lot, and they got very angry. And it got so serious that people were worried about war. Does this sound familiar at all? The people were worried about war, and one day the two friends saw each other. They were on the steps of a government building, like we sometimes are, coming to share their values and to speak for what they believed. But the crowds behind them were angry, and people got scared. But one of the friends looked at his friend and saw him again. He saw him as a wolf running through the woods. He saw him as an otter playing on riverbanks. He saw him when he was much smaller. And his good friend opened their mouth and said, "I am you." And his friend said, "I am you." And the crowds behind them couldn't really understand what was going on. They didn't know about the wolves or the otters or the woods, but they felt something changing. And it was like a voice carried over the community, and people started saying, "I am you, I am you, I am you," like a wave. The storyteller nodded. This was the most important story she had ever told. And the travelers shared stories long into the night. They shared stories until the birds started singing the next morning, and they were so tired that they finally lay down on the beach and they went to sleep. And the storyteller spoke for the first time. She looked at them and she said, "I am you." And she lay down and went to sleep. And that is the end of our story.
And now, if you will rise with me in body or spirit, and we're going to sing hymn number 1008, 1008 in the teal hymnal, and our kids are going to lead on verse 2. Let me hear you say, kids, verse. There we go.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and pride, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with the loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts is within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Let us center ourselves, inviting our mind, body, and spirit into this space, made sacred by our presence and the presence of the Holy, in which we live, move, breathe, and have our being. We gather in sacred space across time and space a sanctuary amid the many challenges of life, a center from which we may gather strength to face these challenges with courage and hope, faith and love. In our time together, we offer our congratulations and hearty best wishes to the Reverend Dr. Sofia Betancourt and Sam Ames, who were married on Friday, November 11th at All Souls Unitarian. Within our Cedar Lane community, we hold in our hearts Travis Plager, Melissa Reichley, and their sons Ben and Henry, who are mourning the passing of Travis's mother Kathleen on November 9th from complications due to COVID and Lewy body dementia. Kathleen was 82. We mourn the unexpected passing of member Catherine Schuler on November 7th at Suburban Hospital from a serious injury sustained after a fall in her home. She was 70. We hold in our hearts Catherine's mother Nancy, her siblings, the Reverend Dr. Michael Schuler and Dr. Bill Schuler, and their families in this time of mourning and grief. Our remembrance and caring extend beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by calamities and war and violence in our nation and in our world.
On Veterans Day, we honor current and past veterans of our nation's uniformed services and their families. We honor them for their service. We express our enduring gratitude, both in words and in actions. We express it to all who served, whatever their role, whatever their service, wherever it took them.
As we name the form of national service with which you identify, we invite you to please rise in body and or in spirit, or share your name, rank and or name of the branch in which you served in the chat.
We honor those family members who served during World War I and World War II.
We honor those who served in the Korean War.
We honor those who served during the Vietnam War.
We honor those who served during the First Gulf War.
We honor those who served during the war in Afghanistan and Iraq.
We honor those who served in the uniformed services during peacetime.
We honor all those who are currently serving in the uniformed military services, active duty or on reserve duty.
We honor family members of anyone currently serving in the uniformed military.
We thank you for your service and that of your family members, friends, and neighbors.
We also honor family members of anyone who served in the uniformed military services, active or reserve duty.
We also name and call out those who have a friend, a co-worker, or a neighbor who serves or have served in the military. We thank you. We honor you. We thank you for the integrity and courage of your choices to serve. We honor the sacrifices that you made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spirit of life and love, give us hearts full of gratitude for the gift of life and the gift of this new day. Let us extend prayers of care and thanks to all those who have served and to those who now are on active duty or in the reserves. Source of all life, be with us as we honor our veterans of wartime. Teach us how to care for those who have borne arms in our names. Be with us as we honor our veterans of peacetime. Teach us to care for all who step forward, even without the certainty that all will remain calm. Spirit of love, may we always remember that war is never holy and that those who fight the wars are not the ones who made them. Help us to hold in our hearts and our hands all those who are in harm's way this day, those who fight the wars of today and hope to lay eyes on those they love once more, those who came home from the wars of yesterday and could not tell us what their eyes saw, those whose eyes were closed forever and those whose families' eyes were filled with tears this Veterans Day. Help us to remember that each of those who were called to serve is a beloved soul. Be with us as we strive to create a community that is good and safe enough to welcome them home. Help their souls to heal, that they may know themselves to be both holy and whole. Spirit of life, bless us and bless this world with peace and healing, despite the evil that it has done. Despite the high ideals that are proclaimed, our faith is that everyone is endowed with inherent worth, dignity, and divinity. We pause in silent affirmation of that faith. As we enter the silence together, those who are mourning a loss or marking the anniversary of a loss of a loved one are invited to rise in body and or in spirit and share their names in the chat. May we hold the silence as the silence holds us.
Together to sing the third verse of One More Step. Every Sunday during worship, we give and receive an offering to sustain the mission and ministry of our religious community. We pass the plate during worship to make a symbolic and real community expression of gratitude for the blessing of abundance that we are called to share and bless the world. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. We are grateful for the incredible generosity of our members and friends throughout this time in support of enhancing and strengthening our ministry and the many community organizations that we partner with in service of our mission. Today, we share our offering with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC. For over 80 years, UUSC has worked to advance human rights alongside impacted communities, partnering with those who confront unjust power structures and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. UUSC's work is grounded in the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity and divinity. UUSC supports self-determination and defends the rights of people displaced due to climate, conflict, or economic hardships, and responds to humanitarian crises as partners with people whose access to aid is most limited. Let us watch this video to learn more about the Service Committee's work.
UUSC is an international human rights organization. We're grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. At UUSC, we seek to advance human rights, dismantle systems of oppression, and uphold the inherent dignity and worth of every human being.
Founded in 1940, UUSC addresses the needs of people who've been ignored or overlooked, working in places where the larger aid agencies often do not.
We are committed to building upon a legacy that is rooted in locally led initiatives, working hand in hand, eye to eye, and heart to heart with community leaders and grassroots organizations in the United States and around the world.
Today, UUSC has over 30,000 members, partnering with more than 40 grassroots organizations. Our programs span across 20 countries in Asia, the South Pacific, Central America, and the United States.
We do our work in 3 ways: through advocacy and action with UU congregations, UUSC members, and our incredible volunteers, through education and experiences with the UU College of Social Justice, and through grant-making, convenings, and collaborative research.
With our partners, we address human rights issues including disaster justice, emergency relief in the face of natural or human-made crises, climate action, working with communities who are losing their homes due to climate change, and criminalization, partnering with communities who are targeted simply for their activism or being who they are, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and ethnic and religious minorities.
And this past year, we have been working with our grassroots partners to meet the unique human rights challenges presented by the COVID-19 crisis.
We know that UUSC members expect us to always be learning and be bold in our programming and our commitment to human rights.
We want you to have confidence in our work. UUSC is a terrific investment for your philanthropic support. Our budget goes far to accomplish so much for human rights in the U.S. and around the world.
And for 10 years running, UUSC has earned 4 stars, the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator, because of our effectiveness and fiscal transparency.
It is an exciting time at UUSC. We are grateful to you and to all of our members for your partnership and for putting your faith in us. You make our work possible. Thank you.
Thank you, UUSC supporters.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much for your support.
And thank you for putting your faith in us.
For all that you do to advance human rights.
We really appreciate it.
We couldn't do the work we do around the world without you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Friday, several of my colleagues at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee traveled to Egypt to attend COP27, the gathering where 198 members of the United Nations who signed the Covenant on Climate Change in 1992 meet to negotiate ongoing responses to climate disruption. It is my profound privilege to play a small part in the ongoing work of our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and what they do to foster human rights around the world. And I mention my colleague's departure because it came at a moment when laboring for human rights saturated every corner of my awareness. It was Veterans Day on Friday, where we rightly express our gratitude, as we just did, to our service members, no matter our feelings about war. Right? Thank you for your dedication to the well-being of our communities. And we had, of course, recently held midterm elections. We've been hearing a lot about this, right? And processing the ideological struggles of this nation, even as we still today wait for the outcomes in several key races. So many of our beloved's rights were and are on the line during these elections. Thank you to all of you who organized, educated, voted, or ran for office. At UUSC, we regularly discuss the work of our partners around the globe who are organizing for justice. Justice for migrants, justice for Earth, justice in a range of crisis moments that impact our very survival. We follow the leadership of frontline communities, those most directly impacted by whatever threatens rights or well-being, and we do our best to provide the type of resources that are most needed to support those leaders in their work for change. everything we do is in service of the dignity and power of all peoples, and I was reminded of how very humanizing it is to labor for the rights of all. One of the oldest questions that religious communities ask themselves, a core category in the study of theology, is what does it mean to be human? How do we know ourselves in the world, and what calls us into being? How do we understand the purpose of our living? I'm reminded of these questions every time my colleague, the Reverend Deanna Vandiver, talks about what it means to human and to humane together. Reverend Deanna is our Director of Justice Education at UUSC, and in that role she manages our College for Social Justice. The work of the college is to inspire, and more importantly, I think, to sustain effective and spiritually grounded activism for justice. Essentially, the goal is to help us human and humane with one another. And I know the language of human rights can bring to mind powerful proclamations from mighty institutions like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that we heard of earlier in the video that was finalized at the United Nations in 1948. The language of human rights sometimes reminds me of my philosophy classes, if I'm honest. And the expression of our values in such idealized language that it can feel at times like it has no bearing on real people's actual lives. And in those moments, I want tangible reminders of how everything we value in our living is at stake, moment by moment, around the world. I think each of us can bring to mind basic rights that we believe everyone deserves. Stories from our own cultures, histories, or lived experiences where those rights have been threatened. I mean things like the right to live free from slavery, to be treated equally in society. Right? We have the right to marry, to have families, and to express what we believe. Education is a right. So is work. So are clean air and access to clean water. The safety and protection of our children is a right, and so is asylum in another country when we are persecuted in our own. And each of these, and so many more, are routinely threatened, not just somewhere else, but here in our neighborhoods, here for members of this beloved community. My theological grappling with what it means to be human longs for reminders of joy and praise. It seeks shared meals and cool glasses of water drawn from the earth directly. It makes decisions about love and family, migration and fossil fuels based on babies I have had the privilege to hold in my arms, and the babies whom I will never know, but who I believe in fiercely. It revels in the words of the poet Naomi Shihab Nye, who reminds us of madres y milagros, mothers and miracles, while describing a lush garden near the military settlement on the West Bank. Naomi Shihab Nye is a Palestinian-American poet whose father was a Palestinian refugee. She was raised in both Ferguson, Missouri, and Palestine, and has been shaped by the histories and experiences of struggle in both places. I appreciate how she speaks directly to injustice in her writings while still holding the humanity of all at her center. When she writes of Palestine, Jerusalem, or the West Bank, she unflinchingly describes injustice for us while holding both Israeli and Palestinian peoples as holy and whole in her writings. The struggles of two communities with profound histories of persecution is described through the interactions of neighbors who, as often as not, love one another. This does not mean that Nai isn't arguing for the rights of her people. She is. But it means that she holds a view wide enough for the rights of all. It matters to me that we encounter the garden of Abu Mahmoud in descriptions of the West Bank. How many of you would instinctively understand why Nai's friend, on hearing that her parents chose to raise her in Ferguson and then Palestine, would respond, "Your parents really picked the garden spots"? When I hear those two place names, I generally think of police brutality and occupation. I think of genocide and government-sanctioned violence, and I forget to remember eggplants and peaches or the sweet herbal flavor of mint. I need this reminder that the blessings of life continue even in unspeakable moments, that when we reach out in partnership with those laboring for the benefit of their own countries and communities, we are not only fighting for human rights cataloged on a list at the United Nations, we are investing in what it means to someone else to live a fully human life. This is how I begin to know my own humanity. I thought I knew, right? I thought I knew what I believed about what it means to be human. I am a seminary professor. But this knowing, this stretching, then asking, then knowing again for a while, this is the spiritual journey. And these years of COVID and unequal access to life-saving treatments and vaccines have me exploring what I believe once again. They have me asking how much I am willing and able to give of myself while our nation is in this time of struggle, and the very values we hold dear are being debated down the road in the halls of government. What does it mean to be human? What is asked of us, and how much can we give? Perhaps more urgently, how do I stay actively committed to my values in the world when I have gotten so very tired? Are you tired, beloveds? When all of us, we are all struggling with the long-term impacts of communal trauma. And we can get so weary, beloveds, legitimately weary. And in those moments, we often try to tell ourselves to do better, right? We go back to the old things that we used to say, or some version of self-judgment that rarely motivates us to help someone we do not know. And in those moments, I want to invite us to turn instead to what it means to human and to humane together. To know that near a military encampment on the West Bank, there are trees so well loved that their branches need extra support to hold their fruit. To share the gleanings of one another's languages so that our mouths might be filled with praise. To love a hillside near our homes so much that no inch of its slope goes unsung. I believe our humanity is grounded in the goodness of what life can be, that it grows in response to the simple belief that together we can contribute to the well-being of all. The tides of violence and uncertainty, illness and strife continually offer us this lie that we live separate from each other and in a state of constant competition. That there will never be enough, right? That we can never be enough, so it's not even worth trying. And our organizers and activists, may they be forever blessed, work tirelessly to remind us that our greatest power manifests through our connections to each other and the disruption of patterns that seek to discourage us from believing in our own wholeness. I want to say again, as Reverend Abhi said, that for over 80 years, UUSC has centered the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity in their work to advance human rights and social justice around the globe. And we do so in a way that is partner-led. I wish that was more common, right? It means that those who work to confront those unjust power structures and mobilize to challenge oppressive policies in their own communities get to decide how to shape the work themselves. Right, the wide range of support that UUSC offers our partners, and we don't talk about this enough, right? We offer research, education, strategic media communication, advising, all of that in addition to financial grants. And that allows our partners to prioritize what they most need in their own communities, rather than having to reshape themselves to match some specialized grant requirement in order to secure funding. I know some of you do this beautifully and well, but imagine if you didn't have to. It is so rare in the world of justice making to allow the voices of those who know best to emphasize the wholeness and value of their communities, rather than being turned into an inspiration story to convince us to contribute. We earn less money fundraising this way, and we are committed to the dignity of our partners. And I believe that investment in communities outside of our own is how we know ourselves to be human, holy, and whole. This is not about charity. It is not remotely about knowing the best way forward ourselves for other people. It is instead about trusting in our beloved's own knowing and experiencing gratitude and praise that we are invited to be part of the solution. It matters to me that our faith tradition encourages us to draw on the love at the heart of our Universalist teachings as a catalyzing fuel for change in the world. Unitarian Universalism encourages us to compassionate, and I would add informed generosity. It challenges us to foster relationships of mutuality, in essence, to know that we cannot fully understand our purpose in this life without connections born out of love, curiosity, and respect. We are not meant to be quiet about our values, beloveds. Instead, we are asked to be the change that we wish to see in the world, or better still, to be the change that we are and can be in the world. This is the work of faithfulness. This is love made manifest by a justice-seeking people. I cannot thank you enough for your support of our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. This beloved institution carries a legacy of justice making through both our Unitarian and our Universalist forebears that takes us all the way back to responding to the human rights violations that led to World War II, sometimes at great personal risk. And those same violations led to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the United Nations in 1948. And the anniversary of the end of World War II is part of what we celebrate every year on Veterans Day. This season leaves us awash in the legacies of human rights work in this country and reminds us that the values of our efforts bears fruit in each generation and will bear fruit for generations to come. We have everything we need to make a difference against the tides of injustice around the globe, and no amount of weariness, and I know that is real, no collective exhaustion can separate us from what we know of our own humanity. Do not despair, beloveds. Do what you can and what you feel you must, trusting that other members of this beloved faith tradition are also doing their part. We are not alone in this work, and collectively, we are stronger than we can know. We will carry this powerful legacy forward. May we find moments of renewal in the coming days and months. May our beloveds laboring in Egypt on behalf of earth itself feel the power of our love and commitment, lending them strength. May all those in harm's way be protected and know the goodness of what can be in this life. And may we continue to grow collectively as a people as we vision a new world into being. May it be so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
Please rise as you are moved to do so to sing hymn 1035, Freedom is Coming. Congregation is going to join me on the top line, and the choir is going to give us some extra with those violins.
Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh freedom, freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, my God. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know.
Beloveds, freedom is coming. We can be that reminder of freedom's possibility to one another and to the world. May you take the strength, the goodness, the legacy of this community into the world. Even when you're tired, even when there's too much to do, there is someone out there fighting for our values in the world. Help them find their yes, and may their yes nurture your own. Amen.
Amen.